Now I'm getting nervous. Hate that. Okay, so I've got two big things here. We've got our fight, flight, freeze, and we've got our internal family systems. Both of these are huge, huge, huge deals. So I'm going to do the best I can to just process through them. Please ask questions, and we'll go from there. Does anybody have any preference? That's excited? All right, let's start with this all parts are welcome. So I've drawn all my pictures to hopefully save some time. What I have up here, all parts are welcome, because that's important. There's a lot of parts of us that we don't want to have in this room. I've got a really bad anxiety part that I would prefer to not have. I would rather that part die. But that part can't die because it's in charge of my chaotic language, right? And so if I throw the baby out with the bathwater there, I'm going to be vulnerable to whatever happens. So back with our brain, in our front lobe, limbic system, and our hindbrain, our limbic system is where this stuff is coming from, but we're going to use our front brain to give it words and to put some boundaries around it so we know what to do with these parts of ourselves, okay? A lot of the things we do, just like I gave the example with the elevator in the Polo Cologne, we do things on autopilot because our limbic system cannot unlearn something. I just can't unlearn trauma. So that's where we continue with different patterns. So this all parts are welcome. The premise of this, and I'll show you in this packet right here, you have this lovely page that has a lot of things already explained to you, so you don't have to write down what I'm saying. So I'm just going to run through that. And I gave you a lot of back pages if you want to write some stuff in the packet. Okay, so the way that I understand this is like, I am Sarah, yes, but I'm not this static, just me. There are different parts inside of me that are, some of them are really extreme, some of them are rather benign, but there are different parts of me, and I need to use them to adapt to different situations, right? So when I'm in one situation, I need somebody who can teach yoga. Whenever I'm up here right now, I need to be in true self, because if not, I'm too preoccupied in all my other things going on that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Whenever I'm teaching a class, I need to be into the psychology mode. And so we have these parts, and all of them are critical, and all of them are welcome. So let's start with this true and authentic self. So the true and authentic self is a part of us that is, it's the part that's optimistic, it's connected, it's curious. It's the part that wakes up and says, yay, it's a new day, I can't wait. It's a part that whenever you play with your pets or whenever you're with your kids, that you just have that feeling of, you know, you can just feel good. I know when I did my bridge work, we would spend hours laughing and just getting lost in laughing. Like, how do we sit here for 2 hours just in pain laughing? Well, that's true self, right? Like, that's a great place to be. So the true self is a very grounded, it's kind of the all-knowing piece of us that we need to rely on as we become adults. But what happens is this true self, it's essentially, again, the way I see it, it's like our spirit is put into this little baby, and it's our parents and our environment's job to raise this child to be who they are and to support that so that we can be well-rounded, balanced people. But what happens is we have trauma, and when we have traumatic events happen, we realize we're not safe, and this part is such, it's like our light, right? And our light cannot be so exposed. We have these protective parts that come in and say, okay, we've got to do something to keep this safe. So let me give you an example. I'm a 6-year-old little girl, right? Going along, life is good, I want to play in the dirt, having fun, right? Well, after sexual assault, time and time again, do you think walking into a room saying, yay, it's a new day, this is exciting, that is not safe, and my system starts to understand that. So what happens are different parts of me, not multiple personalities, although it can go that extreme, but different parts of me start to step up and say, you know, I've got to be, I was going to let you guys know that I'm recording, and so I'm just not going to say names, but please feel free to contribute. So these different parts step up, and they keep me safe, right? We have managers and we have firefighters. What our managers are their parts that run our day-to-day activities. They're the parts that control things, they make assumptions, they, let me see what else it says here. let's see. I don't know. It should be in here somewhere, but I don't know what I've done. I might have messed this up. I'm just certain I did. All right, so our managers, again, it's like they're controlling. They want to make sure that we're thinking ahead. If you look at me a certain way, it's a manager that's going to say, here's what you really mean. I know that whenever you do that with your foot, you're not comfortable with me because of that. It just spins me into this place. And so I hate that part. But that part is working so hard in an overdrive to protect me. So the part of me that can adapt and I can change like a chameleon to everybody, hate that part because I can't find my true self, but that part has saved my life. And so we look at these managers and we have to understand what their function is. I love this model because it is 100% compassion. There is no, I hate this part, I want to kill this part, I want to get rid of it. It is all compassion. Everything in our system is built to survive. And I've said that already 5 times today. Our brain is not built to kill us, it's built to survive. And sometimes we have to do more painful things to survive, but when the crisis is over, we continue on that path. So managers, they're proactive. They're proactive in protecting us from things that are painful. One thing that I say that the research doesn't is that it keeps you primed for pain. On a scale of 1 to 10, my guard was down to a 1, going along in my little girl life, and everything's happy, and then I'd get slammed with a 10, and a 10, and a 10. Well, at some point, I can't keep doing that. So my manager keeps me primed for pain, keeps me at an 8 all the time, so that when you hurt me at a 10, go for it. You don't get the glory of that. I'm already hurting. So I can do this with hating myself, making fun of myself, planning the worst, putting myself around people that are destructive. I will hurt me before you hurt me. And if that's the only way that I can get power, that's what I'm going to do. Does that make sense? It's interesting when you can spin that as a coping skill. You know, for so long I hurt myself, and I felt in some sort of weird way I felt more empowered. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't vulnerable because I wouldn't let anybody hurt me. I was already in so much pain. Okay, so we have our firefighters, and this is the incredibly reactive part. This is our crisis response team. This is the part that shuts the show down. So if this building were on fire, nobody's going to ask where to put your inner child giraffe, right? They're going to get the fire out. Nobody cares about the papers on the floor. So our firefighters inside of us, we're just like wild animals, right? And so whenever things would get so over the top, some common things would be rage, right? Anxiety attack, a good drunk, right? Sexually acting out, self-harm, workaholism. So these extreme behaviors that just remove you from any possibility of being hurt again. Make sense? But yet, at the same time, we're like hurting ourselves while we're doing it. But we're not hurting ourselves the way we were hurt originally. So let me explain that more. I'm going to come down here. These are exiles. Exiles are emotions that have pain attached to them. In my limbic system, intimacy is dangerous. It's an algorithm. Intimacy equals danger. And so I have to understand that if there is an intimate situation coming into my world, my knee-jerk reaction is going to set up all those pluses that we talked about, because here comes a crisis. All right? So intimacy has been banned from my world. But yet my thinking brain, my humanness says, I want intimacy, I want a relationship, I want friendships, I want to get married, and I want this stuff. So I try to bring that into my world. My manager gets all in a pickle about that and says, well, they're probably going to cheat on you. You're not good enough. They're using you. This is boring. It tells me all this stuff at like lightning speed. So then I'm already planning for the worst. And I know that if I'm expecting the worst, then that's what I'm going to find. If anybody's ever said, you're going to cheat on me, you're going to cheat on me, you're going to cheat on me. Well, eventually they're like, might as well, you know, because you keep kind of putting it in my court. And let's say that somebody continues to get through that manager. Well, a firefighter part might just lose control of itself and say, well, I'm going to get so drunk that I pee myself. That'll be a good way to handle this, right? And even though there's a lot of humiliation with it, the deal is, the hope is that intimacy will get the hell away from me. It's going to get away from my light, like the part of me that is just still pure. Or maybe intimacy is getting too close. So what I might need to do is cheat on you with your best friend. Why am I doing that? I shouldn't do this, so I'm going to do it. It's like we're on autopilot, just walking right in that direction, and we don't get it. that it's like a different part of us has taken over. And it should be relieving to hear that, because it literally is a part of us that takes over, and then we hate it and shame it, and we're just back in this big disaster. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna give a lot of examples. I'm gonna move over here to this big mess. Okay, so here's a mess. This is Sigmund Freud's iceberg, which Sigmund Freud, or the psychoanalytic theory, says that our awareness is like the tip of the iceberg. What's really going on in our lives as far as our motivations, our driving forces, and why we behave and do what we do is happening in our unconscious. We've got a lot of unconscious stuff going on here. But I think I know everything because my front brain's up here, right? So here's what happens. Going along in my world, I'm this sweet little girl with my sweet little light, and everything is good, and I get hurt over and over again. So I'm still here, my body's still here, but my light has been put deep, deep in my unconscious. Every person I've ever talked to, they've said, I feel like something's missing. And I don't know if you've said that, but I know a lot of people say, I feel like something's missing. I feel numb. I just feel like there's nothing there. There's totally something there. It has just been so hidden and barricaded deep down in your unconscious that it's not allowed to come out unless it's safe. And I'll talk about that here in just a second. Because really, if you can access this, every person in this room is okay. If you can access this, you are fine. Your parts did their job, so let's thank them and get on with the show, right? But if we can't get on with the show, then we're just gonna stay in these loops. All right, so here's a story, right? So anyways, little girl gets stuck down here because this light is too vulnerable and it is too precious to be hurt anymore. And what comes in place were these different parts of my personality. One was incredibly masculine, right? So I'm looking at being 6 years old, incredibly masculine, not only because if I was one of the boys won't hurt me, but then also my brother doesn't act much like a boy and he gets in a lot of trouble, right? So if I take on those boy roles, brother will be safe. So there are these two roles where I became incredibly masculine. And I got a lot of heat for that. I got made fun of so much for that, but it was, I felt empowered, I guess, because it's better to be a boy than to be hurt by them, right? And so this really solid masculine part developed. Time went on, and then I found a nice part of me that liked to drink, really a whole lot, way too much, like drink till passing out, drink, constantly. And this was around the age of 15, and it was like, wow, I can tolerate a really horrendous world. And so this became a part, like the party girl, like that was my image. I had a really strong sexually acting out part, where that was another part of my identity. I'm gonna give it before you take it. I was ashamed of it, I hated it, I was humiliated, but you give me attention. Like I said, I was a girl, you hit me on the butt, I'm like, ooh, they like me. Like that's sad. Especially when I look at my kids. I never want my kids to think that. But that's what I had to do to adapt to a painful world. Around 23, I realized these other things weren't working. I became a straight up workaholic. Just work. Fun now is dangerous. I can't have fun. I can't handle fun. I've got this other part. I've been doing this I did this since I was about 16. Whereas if you still wanted to be in my world and you still wanted to have intimacy with me, you made me want to throw up. I couldn't even look at you. You made me want to throw up. There was something clearly wrong with you. All right, so let's play this out. 17-year-old, right? I'm hanging out in my world. I want intimacy. Here comes intimacy. Limbic system says, oh, meh, meh, meh. Intimacy is bad. Danger, danger. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to man up, first of all, right? Super masculine. Well, I'm still a girl, but I was just very masculine, and some people are okay with that. So if you pass the test in my masculine behavior, I'm like burping and farting and telling really raunchy jokes and just being inappropriate, if that doesn't kick you out of my system, this says get away from her, I'm kicking you out of the system. If that doesn't work, well then I can drink more than anybody else in this universe. Let me show you. I will drink until I just do some crazy things, black out, humiliate myself. I hate that I did that, but the deal, this 15-year-old is basically taking a beating from me so I can get intimacy away, because intimacy is danger, in hopes that intimacy will go away. If you are still pursuing me, well then I got this sexually acting out stuff, in however form or fashion that could take place. If you're still pursuing me, then I'm too busy to give you the time of day. If you're still pursuing me, I can't stand you, and I really seriously want to throw up whenever I hear your voice. The whole deal is I need this part to be safe. Is that too much information, or does that hit home for somebody in here? I've shared my system a lot, so I'm just going to tell you, this is a very vulnerable thing. I've done this a lot, and I love my system. I think it saved my life once I started to understand it. But as we're doing systems work with you all, our systems don't even want us to know what's going on in there. They are so ingrained and so deep, because we've got like these little critics in here saying, "You're a piece of shit. You should be embarrassed. Oh my God, look what you did again." You know, we just keep everything spinning. And so when we start to say, okay, here's my system, we get nervous, we get terrified, we shut down, we feel insecure, and that's okay. That's what those parts are doing. But we can also say, okay, parts, this isn't the time. If it gets dangerous, fine, but it's not dangerous. So just be aware of any sort of discomfort that you have as we're starting to explore some of this. All right, any questions so far? Making sense? Okay, I'm gonna make it make more sense. So one thing that we do, true intimacy is bad, so I need to find a dysfunctional person, because I can navigate that and I can keep all the spinning here. Is anybody going, Because if I'm with somebody who is dysfunctional, is going to feed into this and then get me drunk and then shame me and then make me work and then I get sick and then they play these games. This part's over here, I don't know, doing puzzles. I have no idea what she's doing down deep, but I've got a lot of stuff going on here, which that's going to keep any potential for true intimacy out of my world. Because my 6-year-old brain says intimacy is dangerous. And I haven't learned that I'm not 6, right? Once these things get locked in, they get frozen in, and that's what we're going to talk about, this freeze response. This stuff is frozen at the age that it starts. If I approach my world like a 6-year-old little girl who was taken advantage of, I can't trust people. Everybody's scary. I don't have a voice, you know? So my system is on lockdown. This little part is too sweet to hurt. So, how do we know this worked? How do we know? Did it work? Or is this just the shit show we live in? And we need some medicine. We need to get a psychiatrist on board here. We need to eat some fruit. Take some vitamins.
It did work at
worked.
one point.
It worked at one point, absolutely. You know, and honestly, if I didn't find alcohol, and I can't believe I'm recording this, but I probably would have killed myself. And I just want to be blunt, you know, I was so miserable, I couldn't tolerate it. Like, life just sucked. And that was the one thing that showed up. I was like, okay, I can deal with this intolerable world. So for one point, yes. Now, for the rest of the points after that, it just became completely destructive. So I'm not trying to glorify that, but I'm also trying to give it some credit where it's due. You know, I don't need to keep doing that. That does not serve me at all anymore. But there was a point where all of these things served me well. But why do I keep doing them? I don't now, but why did I keep doing this stuff for years? Why do we keep doing this stuff?
Your limbic system.
Limbic system, yeah. Intimacy is still dangerous. I can't unlearn that. Here's my favorite part of this group. Here's how I know it worked. I'm alive, right? And I can feel. I also know that I've had VIP passes my whole entire life. Throughout every one of my traumas, every one of my craziness things in my life, I've always had things in my life that can plug directly in to this little girl down here, and they allow me to shine. So as a kid, it was always my pets. I could get lost playing with my pets, and I could have that bond with them, and there was no game playing. I didn't have to be weird with them. I could just love them. Is there anything like that for anybody else? Did you have pets? Did you have one friend? Did you have a place that you would go? Was it church? Was it prayer? Was it the pool? You know, where could you find your peace? And where is it today?
Mine is my sister's. Yeah. Took mine as my own.
They were your babies.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have to play those games with them.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you're safe, you're in. And you could suck that stuff in so fast, and it was so real and so alive. And even thinking about it, I'm assuming that your body is having some sort of feeling right now. You?
Now it's probably animals.
It's animals for so
Yeah.
many people.
I mean, I relax around animals.
Anything else?
Nature.
Absolutely. Prayer, maybe? Laughing. Big one for me. Okay, I'm gonna show you a picture. I'm gonna talk about my kids a lot, but whatever. They're part of my VIP pass. They're part of my team. So my daughter on 6/13/14, so that was 2 years ago, when she was 6 years old, because she's 8 now, she somehow got this, like she mailed letters to my parents a lot, and so but I don't know how, because we don't, like I would give her some ideas, but they would get letters from her and she would mail them. And so here is one that she wrote. It says, Happy Father's Day. I love Poppy because you are nice and handsome, and the best because I like the way you are. Oh, take a good look at this. And I just want you to sit with it for a second. That is this to me. That is the sweetest, most genuine stuff I've ever seen in my life. And just the love that goes into that, whenever I see that stuff, I mean, it really makes my heart feel like that stuff is real. And if I can take my breath like that, and I can see that, and I've seen that 1,000 times, every freaking time I see it. Ding, 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 here's my heart. It is such a cool feeling, because these people who I have hated and beat the crap out of and shamed have taken so much from me, so I can see that little piece of paper and I can feel my guts churn in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean,
my son
yeah,
supposed
like
to kids do stuff.
well, like the one that she sent my dad, right? So she sent them one that said that my dad was special. Now, cold chills, even after 3 years. She's special.
That's awesome.
Isn't that sweet? And so therefore, like the man, the drunk, the whore, the workaholic, the whatever, totally has worked. And that to me is the biggest gift anything in this universe could ever give me. These parts that I hate, that I want to kill, that I say I want to kill the chaos, I can't do it. If I could walk out of this room and I could see these parts, my mind pictures them as a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 22-year-old, lost. They're dirty, they're filthy, they've been bleeding, they're wild-eyed because they're crazy, and they're like, you will not get to this light inside this room. They're like wild animals doing whatever it takes to keep me alive, so that I can see the word special and feel my light turn on. I just think that is remarkable. The last thing that we need to do is call them a drunk or a slut or a whore or a bitch or all these things anymore. What we need to say is, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. I can't believe how hard you work to keep me alive. That is incredible. Like the masculine part of me for so long was like, I have got to kill this part. I don't have to do that. That's so ridiculous. Like I love to do masculine. I love to build. I love to do things. I'm really good at that stuff. So why would I kill that part off? Because it was a coping skill? Now it's a skill set. I think that, and like the workaholic part, well, I can't kill that. I need to use that as a skill set when I need to work. I just feel like there's some really important things. I talked to somebody once and they said this part that is like overly sexual and just does anything. Like, what's that good for? Took me a while to come up with the person you love. I had to think. But like that's not something I need to kill off. I just don't need to have these on my front line. And if I were to see little kids out there doing that, I would be their biggest advocate. But for myself, I'm like, work harder. You're not doing it right. They don't know what else to do. These parts become instilled when we are desperate, absolutely desperate. And without somebody saying, hey, little Sarah, let me show you how to navigate sexual abuse. First things first, I'm going to believe you. and then we're gonna do this. I'm gonna be on your team. And I didn't have that. So I had to do whatever desperate measure my 6-year-old brain could come up with to deal with a crisis. And I did a good job for being a 6-year-old. But now I need to give that 6-year-old a break and say enough is enough, thank you. Let me run the show. Let me walk out of this door being a 38-year-old with all the resources, and let me honor you with the work that you did by showing up for the rest of my life. And there's a question that I love to ask in individual therapy, especially little 6-year-old Sarah, if you could do anything else in the world besides have to protect yourself all the time, what would you do? Go watch a movie. Well, shit. I haven't let you do that ever, have I? Because frontline. And so I'm hoping with just the stuff that I've shared so far, there's a little bit of a compassionate flip happening inside of you, because this is a big deal, huge deal. And I can't imagine, actually I can, because every time I do this, I feel like these parts are like, yay, you see me. And they're so excited that I want to finally take them off duty or give them a snack or let them take a shower, brush their teeth. I mean, like, they're a disaster. They haven't had a break. Now, do I want to get rid of them? No. I don't want to tell them to do something else. I don't want to tell my firefighter part to teach yoga. That would be a disaster. Not, well, hot yoga maybe, but I cannot say, hi firefighter crazy part, I need you to go say and do mala beads the rest of your life. Because then we'd get somebody else in to destroy that. But what I can do is I can see that I've got an incredible skill set in this part of me. And it's a skill set that has allowed me to survive. And so what I've done with that, let me see. I gotta leave that up there because that is special. I mean, what are we supposed to do? I'm gonna melt into a puddle. I'm gonna leave her up here because she's special too. All right, so this is a drawing of a car, which you guys have experienced in my art today. So hopefully you have been enmeshed or whatever. You guys are in my art enough to know that that's a car. Now it's a car. All right. So one way that I see it, and this was from the support of one of the other clients we had here who kind of put it in this detail that I love, is it's like we're driving a car, all right? And we have all these parts in the car. And so my personal examples, I was driving to work whenever I had a 9-week-old baby. No, that's not true. I had a 4-month-old baby and I had a 2-year-old, and I was driving to work. I was teaching 6 different classes. 3 of them were face-to-face, full-time therapist, full-time. I mean, I was working 1,000 jobs, which I do, but I was in the workaholic spin. I wasn't doing it because it made sense. I have to do everything. I have to be everything. I have to be the perfect mom because I didn't know what else to be, so I was just trying to fill in all these gaps. Driving to work, frantic. I was 5 minutes late, and I'm always that. And I started to panic. And it was like I had this thing come in the door and just take me over, and I was in full-blown panic attack. Oh my God, I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna end up losing my kids. I'm gonna live in a dumpster. Fuck it, I'm just gonna not go to work. You know, just this complete, everything just crashed in on me because I was in complete meltdown. So what I've learned with this true self, number one, is that's the place where we need to live. That's where we need to run our show. Now, not that I'm always zenful and grounded, but when I need to come back to that. Like, that needs to be the driver of my life. So because I understand this information, I was able to say, whoa, what's happening here? This is clearly not me. So this thing called unblending is where you take these parts and you get them out of your space. And I know that you guys know what that feels like, where you're here and you feel like you've got all this other chaos going on and you can't see left or right. When you unblend, you get those pieces out of you. You're like, okay, I got a lot of parts trying to talk, right? So I asked this part, I was like, what is going on? Jeez, like, you're in a panic. I didn't say it out loud, but I don't know, maybe I did. But I was just talking to this part, and I said, first, before you tell me what's wrong, tell me how old you are. First number that popped up was 15. I was like, okay, so what happened? Oh yes, I remember. When I was 15, if I was late, there were very dire and humiliating consequences that I had to experience if I was late. It was not just simply you were late, it was humiliation. I mean, it was hideous. So in my mind, being late equals death. And so I looked at this part of me, and I saw a 15-year-old terrified, didn't know what else to do. And I said, I get it. Of course you're terrified. Look what used to happen to you. Of course you're scared. You think this is a crisis. I will tell you right now, this is not a crisis. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 2. Here's how you handle a 2. You make a phone call and say, I'm late. And I know I said this hilarious joke before, But they said, of course you're late. Why are you calling today? And I said, I don't know, I'm nervous. And then I hung up. But I was able to see that part and say, you know what? I see that you're scared. Why wouldn't you be scared? So I appreciate you. This isn't a crisis, but I need your skill because your energy is fierce. I cannot do my life without your energy, but I need you to take a back seat. I need you to hang out until there's a real crisis. If there's a real crisis, by all means, we're going to call the news and we're going to put on a show for everybody around. And then we're going to do whatever we have to do. So I have this well-rested firefighter anxiety thing going on inside of me, but anxiety is only a fight or flight response. That's it. Fight or flight response is to survive. That's it. And so it's not like I'm asking this energy to do something else. I'm asking it to use it for something that's necessary. And so the permission that I've given myself to save that for a real crisis is pretty freaking cool. And it gives me the energy whenever I feel slighted to say, you know what, I'm not okay with that. That's my fight or flight energy to show up. Or, no, that needs to stop. Or I need to walk away. Instead of being hypervigilant and panicking about everything, I can do it when it's appropriate. Make sense? So now I've learned, well, this right here is like a manager and a firefighter. They're like, oh no, help, oh, we're crashing. You know, they're just all over the place, knocking everything out. And so when you put your true self in the front seat, seatbelt that in, it's very liberating because you can look at all of these things you've had happen in your life, and it definitely is not on that linear track, right? Because of my A to B's, I've got a lot of different skills. I've got all these things buzzing around in the back seat. So I get to say, hey, I need a yoga instructor up here. Come on up. I get to use that yoga instructor skill. That's great. That's fun. Yoga's over. I need you in the back seat because I've got to go to a meeting now and I've got to act like I'm serious. So I need that person up here. All right, we act like I'm serious. I can't do that all day. So thank you. Appreciate you. Back seat. Now I need to have a mom up here. All right, nice job. Now I need some space, and I don't need anybody in the front seat because I've got it under control. Because you guys worked hard enough so I can drive my car. I'm not codependent on my parts anymore. I've never said it like that, but that's how it is. You know, I'm not codependent on needing to use them all the time. I can honor them by taking my space. And then honoring them by letting them do what they're good at. I think they all have a place. They all have a role. You guys have any thoughts on that? It's a lot of stuff. Is it good hearing it for a second time?
Absolutely. It just like reinforces the ability to be able to recognize why I am behaving the way that I'm behaving and actually like work through it in a way of processing it on my own and then allowing that part to step back.
Yeah.
And it gives me a sense of control, honestly, because for a long time before I got here, I had no idea why I did the things that I did.
It's almost like being possessed.
Exactly.
It's like you have one thought and then,
yeah.
like, well, here I go.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this. Here
I'm already
doing
through it
Yeah.
before I even recognize that I've done it, and then I'm shaming myself for doing it again.
Because your front brain says, you should have done it differently.
Exactly. So now I feel like I can almost recognize it before and talk myself through, okay, I know why I'm doing this, and it takes the power away from it, in a sense, to me at least.
And I bet that part feels validated.
Absolutely.
It's like a kid saying, I'm scared. And you say, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Or if you say, I bet you're scared because this is scary stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to go play now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just validating it. And I bet that part trusts you that you're not going to get hysterical.
Right.
And how nice is that? You can say, okay, part, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
This makes sense, yeah. Instead of feeling so confused and not knowing how to handle it and then just wanting to shut down or shut it out.
Yeah, because you're coming from an 8-year-old thinking pattern.
Right.
And we can't expect an 8-year-old to
Handle
solve these
that,
problems.
yeah.
And so I'm going to give a painful example, but I'm going to have to give it just to show the intensity of these parts. All right, so if I were to tell my kids, I need you all to get in my car to take this check to the bank, but then take this other check and put it in the bank with pay our mortgage. And then I need you to go to Kroger's and make sure you use these coupons unless there's something a little cheaper on sale. Don't spend over $100. And then I need you to fill the car up with gas, use the Kroger card because I've got points on that, and then come home. Okay, my kids are 6 or 8. I said, if you don't do it, I'm going to kill myself. How desperate and crazy would they be to make that happen? And they would do a horrible job at it. but they would do their best. And so I hate using that example because it makes me want to throw up. But I also think it really hits home to the intensity that these parts have been working for us. They don't know what else to do. They're using every bit of their skills at that age because they're frozen in that time to figure out our lives. And then we shame them, do it better. It's like, you can shame me all day to speak Chinese. If you say you're gonna kill yourself if I don't, I'm gonna make something up. I'm gonna be like Googling some Chinese, but I'm still gonna suck at it. I'm gonna try. And just that frantic fear and the terror that goes along with that. God, that's so sad. And when you see other little people that are 6, 8, 13, 19, I would never, ever want them to go through that. But we do it to ourselves, right? Any questions? Any thoughts on how this goes? It's different.
I guess so my anxiety feels like it works a bit like the more I'm aware that it is stopping any access to this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of the more I fight it, the more it comes in. Do you know? So I'm aware that this is what it's blocking.
Okay.
And that is it.
Okay, so if it was me, I'm like the Leo, right? Holding the heart.
Yeah.
And you're the anxiety.
Yeah.
And we've got you over here saying, stop acting crazy, stop being nervous. Well, you're being mean. And you don't want this to get to me, so you're gonna stay here and just be a nervous wreck, distracting all the pain from me.
Yeah.
Because you love that part loves this part so much.
Wait, sorry, the anxiety love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the anxiety is taking it from him, like this other shame part of you.
Yeah.
Because that hurts too bad. You would rather take that than to have that little 8-year-old boy take it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so whenever you beat up your anxiety, when that part beats up your anxiety, it's just saying, I am still not safe to step away so this little boy can have the show. So I still have that ass part in me that's just telling me.
Defend that part.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well that part's just trying to keep you primed for other people who are going to do that.
Yeah.
And as an adult, we say, there's nobody doing it.
Okay. So it's the
Yeah,
adult.
like there's nobody doing it. If there was, I need you to step in and help me prime for pain. Thank you, but I don't see a crisis.
Sure.
Then like the anxiety part, if your nervous anxiety part is scared, I would say, okay, I get it. Your job is to be nervous so that I can stay safe, but what I'm gonna ask you to do is just sit right here. I'm gonna stand here, and if you need to get nervous, well, come on back. But just for a minute, just give me a little space so I can breathe.
Okay, I guess it's that priming that adult part, which
Yes.
takes a bit of.
And it's not saying, anxiety part, I hate you, you're a piece of shit. Because then it's like, well, you can't handle things.
Yeah.
You know, it's saying, I get it. This is your job. You want to fight or flight. You're trying to protect me. There's no crisis. Sit here. If there is a crisis, come on. And just the way that I even said that, like in my mind, I can feel so much more validation for this part. It's like, okay, you weren't going to kick me to the curb. You see that I'm important, but I don't have to work right now. Okay, you know, it's kind of exciting.
I guess the weird thing is, it always feels like the crisis is in adulthood, but I can't get access to this part. Does that make sense?
I think that's your
So
manager.
it's the adult.
He's just
The
going to keep
adult
them
is
in.
in a bit of a panic as well. If that makes sense.
So if that panic part was right here in front of you, you're here at the panic part. Okay, I'm gonna clone you, right? You're fine.
Right.
All right. So here's one and here's one.
Yeah.
So are you the nervous one or are you the adult?
I'll be the adult.
You're the adult.
Okay.
Is the nervous one right here?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about him being right there?
He's okay next door. Yeah.
Okay. And he's fine. Why aren't you a nervous wreck if he's sitting right here? Now he's trying to blend in with you. You're like, get back in your spot.
Why? Yeah.
Why aren't you nervous seeing him sit right there?
Because it's okay to be anxious. No.
If you were to look at him and really get a sense of how old he is, what's the first number that comes up?
Yeah, 7, 6, 7.
6 or 7?
7.
7. So there's a 7-year-old little boy sitting right next to you, terrified,
Yeah.
a nervous wreck. The same part that you tried to ditch earlier, the
Yeah.
part that you're scared of, the part that you don't want anything to do with because he's a piece of crap
Yeah.
and keeps you from having your life. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ditch him. I don't want to have compassion. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
I understand, and it's understandable to be scared.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary being 6 anyways,
Yeah.
period. Just developmentally, it's scary.
Mm.
And so if you could ask that little boy if he could do anything else in the universe besides be a nervous wreck, what would you do? What would he say?
I mean, he'd probably justify it. I mean, he'd say, so, you know, I have to be scared. It's a scary situation.
Okay, perfect. I would say, what is scary right now? Because you're right.
Oh, well, as the adult, sorry. Okay, yeah.
It's totally fine to be scary when things are scary. And
Yeah.
if there's something scary, let me help you with that. What's scary right now so I can help you through that?
I guess it's still, well, I guess it's, you know, it's the fear of being judged, rejected, all those cool fears, of being unable to connect.
Okay. So if this little boy was sitting here, I'm gonna move him right in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend that I'm him. I would say, you are the only one that's judging me. I have not felt that from anybody else in this room. You're the only one that hates me. You're the only one that is mean to me.
Yeah.
You're keeping me scared, and I'm trying so hard. I want to connect, and everybody else wants to connect. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know?
And, I mean, you think, like, I guess what I think is that 7-year-old did feel that way, you know? So just saying, like, of course you feel that way.
Yeah.
Of course you feel that way.
Yeah, no,
It was
definitely.
really scary.
Yeah.
You were away from home, new people, you thought you had to hide who you were. I mean, that was really scary. And I'm really grateful that that's not where we're at today. It's
Yeah.
okay that you feel that way, something in the air, something feels familiar around that, so that's why you're coming up. But so I can hear your message that I need to be careful, I may not be safe here, but, you know, but I'm the grown-up here, and
Yeah.
I'm assessing that this is safe, so you get to relax. You get to relax, and I will keep us safe in this situation, kind of thing, too, right?
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. No, great.
Like, what relief would that little boy have? He would just sit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And play and be free.
Yeah.
And really, your critical part that was blended because your true self wouldn't do that. That's just another critical part. I'm assuming would say, listen, I've only done that because everybody else hurts him and I want to keep him on his toes so that whenever something happens, his face doesn't get red or this doesn't happen because he's already feeling embarrassed. So if I keep him ready for that, he won't be caught off guard. And I would say, wow, that was pretty nice of you to do that. That must have sucked that you've had to do that your whole life. I bet you would prefer to do something else besides have to just beat the hell out of this little kid all the time.
Yeah. So that's a critical part.
And they all have good parts, you know? So that critical
So
part.
it became even more hypervigilant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so really like the intention of the critical part was to just keep this one on its toes. But you as the adult can say, all right, critical one, got it. I see what you're doing. I appreciate that effort. That's awesome. But right now, I don't see anything that we need to be really critical about.
Yeah.
If you're doing brain surgery, front seat, right? If you're doing something that needs critical attention, bring it.
Yeah.
Or if that critical one starts to go off and you're like, I feel like I'm criticizing myself, that's whenever you need to regroup and be like, I just need some space. I'm starting to get weird. And then you can regroup and get everything back in order.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, it really does, yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
I wish we could bring these little people in here. It'd be cool if we could do, maybe like in 20 years, and like do like holograms. Like I'm gonna need.
Well, this is our pictures, you know, it's like
Like,
it's great when we do
this
the
is my
entire workshop,
holograms.
we always have people do the pictures of themselves, and it's pretty interesting, you know, to see that, because people can look at themselves and say, I was scared. I mean, everybody else might think, oh, we had a woman who was literally Miss USA in whatever, the 70s or something, you know, and she had these beautiful pictures of herself. She was gorgeous. And she was like, I was miserable. Everybody else looks at her and says, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And she spends her whole life trying to live up to that. And you know, she was like, I was miserable. And so everybody can look in the eyes of their pictures and have that compassion, or
See it.
work on that anyway.
when we did that connection with the little boy, could you feel it anywhere in your body?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the whole of my body, to be honest. It's a complete relaxation.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, I would imagine.
Mm.
You know, like whenever we were doing that, I felt like I just had like a punch in my gut that there was just like such a connection, like right here, my solar plexus area. Just I don't know, like it's that VIP stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's the VIP and I can realise that I can still access that.
Totally can. So how do you feel knowing that you're okay?
Yeah,
You know,
no,
like
it's-
how nice is that? Like hallelujah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
These parts worked.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me put you on the spot there with that. I appreciate you. Let me do that. You were special. That was a special part. I bet that 6-year-old loved that. It was like, I'm special too. All right, so you guys doing okay? Lots of stuff? All right, you guys are bearing with me here. I've been plowing through it today. All right, so I'm not going to do the pictures because I've only got 30 minutes left, and I want to come over here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a lot on Kim. She's going to take it from here. As far as the internal family systems goes, I've got a lot of stuff that I usually do, like cutting out pictures and finding your parts and working through them. But essentially, what I just did with him is what this is about. It's sticking up for those parts and saying, I'm on your side. I see why you're hurting. The same way we would any of our other people in our life. All right. You guys need like a 2-minute break? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. How about you take a 2-minute break and then we'll do this last part. I'm gonna shut this off and make that face in here.